Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, Managing Editor of Canada's Entrepreneur. Joining me today is Tara Parry, who is Director of Permanent Services with Robert Half. Thanks for joining us today, Tara.
Thanks for having me on, Mario. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, well, not a great survey result that you folks put out recently, but 47% of Canadians feel burned out. And that
Yes.
number is rising. Is that surprising to you?
Yes and no. I think what's surprising to me is how much it's changed over the last 24 months. So just to give you some perspective, in 2023, we ran the same survey and the result was 33% of working professionals. 2024 was 42%. And so we're 5 points up over last year, but we're 14 points up over 2023. And I think for me that's one of the biggest surprises. Um, it does make me a bit sad that almost half of our workforce feels overwhelmed. I think there's something deeper in that we need to think about as a culture. But at the same time, I'm also not hugely surprised. When you look at our economic outlook, we're not in a recession, but we for sure haven't been positive about our economy for a little while, and we're sort of stagnant and flat. And I think that maybe that's some of what we're seeing in these numbers.
Well, in those numbers too, I'm just looking at them, 31% of them feel they're more burned out now than they were before. So
Mhm.
not only are the numbers increasing of people feeling burned out, but the people who are burned out are feeling even more burned out.
Well, burnout is it's like compound interest. If you don't stop to take care of it, it's just going to continue to compound on you. I mean, I'm case in point. I had to take some time off last year. I think we all I think what's interesting in the numbers, and you'll maybe get to that point, but it's not just how many people are experiencing it, but who is experiencing it. And 50% of those who are feeling burnt out are working parents and millennials. Now, I wish I was a millennial, but I'm not. But I am a working parent. And I think we work on such a precarious balance when you're working parents with both parents working outside the home that when one thing sets that balance off, it's really hard to find that equilibrium again. And if you don't take time to find the balance again, you just compound the issue and it just keeps getting worse.
So what are the factors contributing to this?
One of the biggest factors contributing to it, and let me get you the exact number. The biggest 39% of people said the biggest contributor is heavy workloads and long hours. And then number two is emotional or mental fatigue from high stress tasks. So just 1 point below at 38%. And again, I think this is where it ties back to sort of the economic place we're in. A lot of companies are trying to manage overhead. One of the easiest ways to manage overhead is to reduce your payroll cost. When you reduce your payroll costs, though, you're not replacing people when they leave, or you're not hiring for people as their workload grows. And so the people who are left behind are doing more with less. And so that demand on their time and the stress of the workload and the emotional mental fatigue of constantly having to be on starts to catch up with people.
Now, you kind of talked a little bit about this, but I'm just curious. So, where are the highest levels of burnout? Did you folks look at like any particular industries and professions that?
Mhm. So the highest level of burnout from a professional perspective, 59% of lawyers and human resource professionals.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I bet we all know lawyers. We all know lawyers and we all assume what lawyers go through, and it's a high stress job. You know, being in the legal field is a definitely a high stress job. And um And so I'm not surprised that a lot of lawyers are feeling this way. Again, you look at market conditions. When the market gets tight, markets tend to get litigious. And so lawyers get involved. And so their workload has gone up. When you look at unemployment levels in lawyers right now, it's full employment amongst lawyers and support staff within law offices. It's virtually fully employed. And so there aren't enough people to do the work. When you look at human resources, that one surprised me a little bit, to be honest, that it was as high as that amongst HR professionals. But I think human resources ends up being a little bit of an emotional dumping ground in the office. And a lot of HR people really care about the people that they work with and for. And so I wonder how much of that is them owning some of that emotional discourse.
Yeah. Now we all know that, the impact that burnout has on people and the stress and uh,
Hmm.
emotional and mental and obviously physical stuff, right? But
Hmm.
curious, what impact does all this have on the businesses, the employers?
Well, it has a big impact on employers. Managers are really talking a lot about the impact it's having on them. 39% of managers saying burnout amongst existing staff is the biggest challenge that they're facing in the office. And that burnout only increases when they're trying to fill a hard to fill role and just haven't been able to find people to take some of that burden off of the rest of the team. And so managers are really feeling the pinch of it because they're trying to figure out how to manage it for people.
And I imagine with burnout, you're dealing with issues of productivity, right? And you
Mhm.
the people that may not be performing at optimum level, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we all know for ourselves, right? When our stress level gets too high, our efficiency rating tanks. And 40% of managers are noticing a decrease in productivity as a result of an increase in burnout or mental fatigue in the workplace.
I was also going to mention also the more of an aptitude to make mistakes under those circumstances, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I myself, part of how I knew that I needed to take some time to care for myself was I was making mistakes I haven't made in decades. And not just at work, but at home. I'm putting my phone in the fridge and I'm leaving the milk on the counter and I'm forgetting to do things in the office. Like so we all know what happens when your brain you just stop functioning at the level that we're used to and everything suffers.
Hey, so last question. What's the what's the solution to all this?
Well,
What do people do?
that's the $1 million question right there, Mario. I think the solution is people need to talk about how they're feeling. The solution is not to quit your job because, at least not right away, because the grass isn't always greener. You need to find a way to talk about it with your managers. Managers need to really encourage staff to take advantage of all the time off they're afforded, to encourage some mental health days. And staff need to make sure that they're talking to their managers about how they're feeling. Now, we can't solve all the problems immediately. And so I think managers really need to foster a sense of team and culture and allow people to take the time off and actually disconnect while they're on vacation and not answer emails. And that's a give and take. I'm going to do it for you if you can do that for me, and really building this sense of team in an approach to deal with it. um, Managers really need to work on employers to increase headcount in some circumstances, for sure. And I know employers are wanting to manage headcount from a cost perspective. So maybe being flexible and hiring contract employees. So you have a flexible workforce that just helps ease some of that burden of the tactical work. But don't just quit your job. Really be vocal and talk about it and see what solutions you can find in house. Foster a sense of team and culture. Take the time off and disconnect and care for yourself. That's really where I would say we can spend some time. But I think employers need to recognize the problem and be willing to spend a little money to help solve it sometimes.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Tara, for joining us today.
No, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, that was Tara Perry, who is Director, Permanent Services for Robert Half. I'm Mario Toneguzzi, Managing Editor of Canada's Entrepreneur. Thanks for joining us today.